ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Speaking by Faith podcast with Stephen Higley and I. We are continuing our journey through the book of John, and this week we're going to be focusing, I believe, on verses 40. I'm hoping we might be able to get to the end of the chapter. That's what I'm. Yeah.
40 and following.
Yeah, 40 and following. That's what we'll say.
Yeah.
So I will read to verse 45. Does that sound good to you? Or
Go for it.
I'll read all of it. Might as well get it all out the way.
Okay.
All right, verse 40, and again we're in the book of John, chapter 1, and I'm reading from the New King James Version. One of the two who heard John speak and followed him, and was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. He first found his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated the Christ. And he brought him to Jesus. Now when Jesus looked at him, he said, "You are Simon the son of Jonah. You shall be called Cephas," which is translated a stone. The following day, Jesus wanted to go to Galilee. And he found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael, and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and said of him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered and said to him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered and said to him, "Because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Most assuredly I say to you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and the angels of God descending upon the Son of Man." I know it seems like a lot of verses there, but I think we can get through it.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Go forth, young man.
I am having difficulties with there it is. Take all my stuff here today. I don't know what's going on. Verse 40. So one of the two which heard John speak and followed him was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. Andrew, we can almost we kind of get the hint that quite possibly he's not widely as known as his brother Peter, obviously, because he is connected with Simon Peter's brother before we even know who Peter is, right? So it's almost as if Peter was known very, very well by the time that this gospel of John wrote his gospel. So he was just he could have just said Andrew, but nobody probably would have not even known who he was speaking of. So he connected him with Peter. So that's one thing. Where I read, they said why he may have connected him with Simon Peter, or Peter's brother, so everybody would know. Oh, okay, that's okay. We know who you're talking about. Do you have anything on that?
I agree.
You agree? I've read through here before, and I've read that many times, and I never thought of why he may have been connected with Simon Peter. He had that title. I was like,
yeah.
And when I read that, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense, I guess.
Mm.
And that goes back to me not really doing a whole lot of studying the Gospels and not realizing how late in time John's Gospel was actually written.
Yeah.
Most before you really start studying, sometimes you think, well, Matthew was written first, and it was Mark, and he's kind of think like that, but it really wasn't. It just really wasn't.
Mm.
It's almost as if when I finally realized that Job more than likely goes back it fits in up there between Genesis and Exodus, you know. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that's very, very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Very eye-opening.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway, so I thought that was a neat little nugget there to learn is why his name was accompanied with Andrew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Verse 41, he first findeth his own brother Simon, and saith unto him, We have found the Messiah, which is being interpreted the Christ. I got a question. How long did he wait to spread the good news?
It seems to be pretty immediate, right?
Pretty immediately, he went and done it.
Yeah.
Because he was happy. You know, he had found what he had been seeking.
Mm-hmm.
They've been looking for this Messiah. He found it. You know, so he immediately wanted to go and share it that he had found the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to use that as an example of us today when we're, just trying to be a Christian. You know, we are to go therefore and make disciples, go and teach them. We know, but what we're teaching them the good news, the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
We should do it immediately. Don't wait till tomorrow. You know, don't procrastinate, which I'm very good at doing, by the way.
Aren't we all?
So that word, we are. That word Messiah is a Greek transliteration of Hebrew or Aramaic, meaning anointed one. And it's translated in the Greek to Christ, Christos. Now, I'm going to ask you to explain what does it mean by transliteration?
Letter for letter.
Huh?
Letter for letter.
Oh.
So like the word the common word we see is the word baptism or baptizing in our English. Obviously, baptism though is the Greek word baptizo. And then we say, well, that's always been transliterated. That's why you don't use the word baptism today inside of this your normal vernacular. You know, it's always associated with church or anything faith related. And so that's the same kind of setup with this one. It was transliterated, the Messiah, which my Hebrew is not very good, but like it's something to the effect of like
mine's not either.
like Messiah, something like that. But it's very very similar. Whereas inside of the Hebrew you see Yahweh actually in it, whereas Messiah you kind of lose that with the transliteration. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's just a thing. But I do want to a thing about Andrew on this topic really quick. So Andrew has every time you see Andrew, he's always bringing somebody to Jesus.
Yeah.
You see him doing that here with his brother Simon Peter. You see him do it 3 times in the Gospel of John in particular. See, the second time he's doing it with the young lad. It could be 12, 15 years old type things, what we're kind of thinking about. And in John 6 with the 5 loaves and 2 fishes. How Andrew went out and found him and brought him there. And then in John 12, verse 22, he's again linked with Philip in bringing Jesus a message of interest from the Greeks. So every time he's mentioned, somebody's being brought to him, being brought to Christ through Andrew. And that's kind of all you really know about Andrew. He's a soul winner. That's all you really know about Andrew.
That was like my next. I had that note in my next for the next verse.
I thought they would be in there somewhere.
Yeah, every time we see him, he's bringing someone to Jesus. That if he's not the best example we have of evangelism, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
he's always bringing somebody to Christ. Yeah, that's neat. That's pretty neat. And again, I never realized that until I was reading through it. I got thinking, I said, man, that is true. He's every time he's mentioned, he's bringing somebody to Christ. What if every Christian had that get up and go?
Oh yeah.
Think about the church. Think about how big, how grand it could be for him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's something neat to think about. Back on that word Messiah, I'd never realized that word had only been used twice in Scripture.
Yeah.
Another translation has it 4 times, but I kind of thought that was odd. I'm like, wow, I guess I've just never really picked up on that. Just only used twice. And a little bit of background history on that word Messiah. In the Old Testament, Scripture uses it to denote the king. In 1 Samuel 16:6 and 2 Samuel 1:14, and also the high priest, Leviticus 4:3, and the patriarchs in Psalms 105 and verse 15. Now, the neat thing about Jesus being the Messiah, he is the king, and he is also the what?
The high priest. Yeah.
So it fits him. He is the Messiah. I really like that when I learned that when I was doing the study. Verse 42, and he brought him to Jesus, and when Jesus beheld him, he said, Thou art Simon, the son of Jonah. Thou shalt be called Cephas, which is by interpretation a stone. We've already mentioned Andrew. He's a go-getter. He's evangelizing. He is bringing people. He's fired up. He is fired up for Jesus. I'm bringing people. He's a good example of how to evangelize. Be constantly looking to bring someone to Jesus. Now, this word Cephas, how has it stirred up a wasp nest? If you could, if we could really go into it a whole lot, and maybe you want to. But Cephas means rock. It's an Aramaic name. It's equal to Petros in Greek. I thought this was a neat commentary. It says maybe not a descriptive name of Peter, because since we see how Peter is in Scripture, Peter was very impulsive. Think about it, the Garden of Gethsemane. Peter was the first one to pull his sword out and cut off someone's ear. We see a lot of times Peter's opened his mouth and he's got his foot in his mouth. A lot of times he's very impulsive. So just maybe Jesus gave him that name because that's what he wanted Peter to become. He wanted Peter to become that rock, that good, something good and firm and strong. Not to be impulsive, but be good and strong. He wanted Peter. That's what he expected Peter to become, to be.
Right.
And I think that's what Peter did. In the end, Peter become that rock. He stood on the truth.
Sure.
I can only remember one time in Scripture where it seems Peter quite possibly fell away, and that was when he wouldn't eat with the Gentiles, right?
Wasn't that he was, and then when the Jews came in, he left them.
Yeah.
Over in Galatians 2 there?
Yeah. He was eating with them, and he fell away, and then Paul rebuked him, right?
Paul
come in and
yeah.
So, but other than that, Peter was very, very strong. Very, very strong. That just goes to shows us that Jesus knows people, and he knows even their potential. He knows what they can be. And I think that's a good way to look at that name, of why possibly he named him that.
And even in the book of Acts, Peter is the main person of interest through the first about 13 chapters of Acts, and then it shifts to Paul at the end. But it's interesting there that depending on how you look at for your dates, for the first 13 chapters of Acts, let me get my words out. That's several years. That's not just like a week or two. That's between like 10 years type thing, maybe even 15 years. And that still obviously is up for discussion on that part. But that still is a long time for him to be the prominent figure after Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. From Acts 1 to 13 there,
Yeah, and I think that's where we get a lot of that. I think that's why the Roman Catholics always try to put Peter as being the first pope. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah,
I don't know a whole lot, but I do know that's why. But
Well, they do it based on this Aramaic name of Cephas in Matthew 16:18. What they do.
Yes.
And then they just kind of turn it around a little bit, and it's like, I just don't see it. And then what they do, though, is they use a very similar rhetoric, and they say, see, look, he was Cephas here, means rock, and they realize it's rock. And then in Acts 2, when it says Peter got up, well, they forget it's Peter and the other apostles. It's not just Peter, but his sermon is one that's recorded, and I think that's from Matthew 16, verse 19, about him being given the keys to the kingdom of heaven. I think that was all prophesied about for him to be that person. And even inside of all of the listings of the apostles, Peter's always mentioned first. There's some changing of order of names, but the normal three are Peter, James, and John. And then after that, you have Andrew. He kind of maybe, place 4 or place 5, depending on the list there, and they kind of move around a little bit. But the prominent ones have always been 1, 2, 3: Peter, James, John. And that's so right. Peter's always been there, but the Catholics kind of enjoy that, twisting a little bit based on Cephas, and it's just not there. And they even say that he becomes a bishop, and then I'll tell you another thing that they also say. This really, as a brief aside here, is that the boy that Andrew brought, the lad, is Ignatius, which I don't believe that at all. I mean, you can't prove that either way. And they always say that anybody outside of the Catholic Church can't get around Ignatius, and you can. And they always say, well, that's why the first century church was Catholic. It wasn't Catholic. It can't be Catholic. They had very clear elders, and Peter was an elder. He was not the elder. He was one of the elders. 1 Peter 5 says, I am among the elders. I'm also a fellow elder. So it's like, and they went around and established elderships. So they wouldn't just say, well, we're going to lie about what we're doing here, and then say, oh, well, actually, we're going to consolidate everything into one person. That's just not the case. There's a lot of stuff that's really
wrong with it. Yeah. I was trying to think. We had a class on it, and I was trying to remember some verses that Peter himself, his own words, what he says goes against what they say a pope is.
Right.
I mean? It's like, right. They say the pope is this and that he was the first, but then you have scriptures saying, going against what they're teaching from the person that they claim that was the first pope, and it just makes no sense.
Yeah, right.
But it's pretty crazy, but it's sad at the end of the day.
It is. It's very sad. All right, keep on going.
Verse 43. I'm gonna do 43, 44, and 45 because I don't have much.
Okay.
On those three. The day following Jesus would go forth into Galilee, and findeth Philip, and said unto him, Follow me. Now Philip was at Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip findeth Nathanael, and saith unto him, We have found him of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Verse 44 says, Now Philip was of Bethsaida. It's almost as if Jesus was looking for Philip here, like others was always looking for Jesus, but it's almost as if here Jesus was seeking out Philip. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how true that is, but
well, the Bible says that he found Philip.
Yeah, he found Philip. That's like he's looking for him. So I don't know. I mean, that's like. I went up here and I found such and such there, but was you actually looking for him, or did you just find this certain person there? I don't know, but do you have anything on that?
Philip does play an important role. Philip was the money guy. I think him and Judas and Matthew all kind of three money people. Obviously Matthew with his background as a tax collector, and then Judas says that he had the purse, and that's kind of what made him think, other things later on in John 13 there, because when the woman broke the alabaster box, it was Judas that said, "Oh, you should have done that." Philip, though, was the one that Jesus tested in John 6 about how much money do we need, Philip, to feed the 5,000. And he said, even if we had a denarii a day or whatever it was, if we had all this money today, we still wouldn't have enough to feed the 5,000. And then that's when he said, well, actually, there's a little. And that's when the boys here, and he said, well, the boys said, here's my fish and my loaves, and then also then you have the miracle there. But Philip's the one, I think, that was kind of the money guy. I think that Philip is a good guy because he shows us how, that there's definitely some very good qualities of Philip. And one of the things I think that he shows us, just kind of, I guess it's more of a negative thing, is that in spite of how sometimes we might be, kind of selfish in our thinking about faith, because, like when Jesus asked Philip in John 6 there about feeding the 5,000 to test him, Philip forgot to add Christ to the equation. And so I think that's kind of one of the things that he elaborates to us. But, and even here, though, we know that Philip was a soul winner himself because he went out and he found Nathaniel.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think he's a good guy. I think he's obviously a soul winner himself. He's probably a hard worker, I'd imagine. And, probably a good guy to have around. But it's just interesting there from the negative side that he forgot to add Christ to the plans, but he still is one that I think was very committed to Jesus.
Yeah, we kind of get we see your brothers are seeking brothers here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brothers seeking each other out, spread the good news. I got a quote here from a Frederick Lewis Godet. One lighted torch serves to light another. I thought that was a good quote there. And, you think about that's us. We need to be lighting other torches throughout we need to be Philip and Andrew. That's what we need to be. Bring people to Jesus. Verse 46. And Nathanael said unto him, Can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip said unto him, Come and see. Now Nathanael is from Galilee, right? Now the Galileans were treated with contempt from the Judeans, right? They didn't like them too much. Now it also seems like the Galileans of their own little group there had some sort of contempt to their fellow Galileans from Nazareth, right? And I don't understand why, but they did, because they're from the same place, the same part, and he's like, well, does anything good come from there? And we see that today in our society. A lot of people there's nothing good down in all them folks down in Waynesboro. They're no good or something like it. There ain't nothing good down there.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but they just do it. Now this does throw a lot of people off, where it did throw some off. Where was Jesus from?
He's from Nazareth of Galilee.
Nazareth of Galilee, but where was he born? Because
Bethlehem.
what I'm getting at, later on, they're going to be, this might throw some people off on saying that he was from Nazareth, but
he was born in Bethlehem.
Yeah, and that's what they try to, he's from Nazareth, they don't, but they forget that he was born in Bethlehem, and that is fulfilling Micah 5:2, that prophecy.
Correct.
So I think that's a good thing to know, because it's funny, you see churches today still put that Jesus from Nazarene, this and that. He is actually Jesus of Bethlehem. That's where he was born at. But anyway, I wanted to put more on that. There was a whole lot in that commentary on it, but I didn't. I just kind of put that little bit. We didn't remember he was born in Bethlehem, and to take that away from him, that takes away from the prophecy. I mean, it just does.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
What I've got, just adding in that extra stuff about why there could be a possibility of a issue with Nazareth. Okay, so one thing is Galilee, an alternative name to Galilee is called Galilee of the Gentiles. So there are two major cities in Galilee that are not mentioned but in passing. So one of those is called Tiberias. Another one, and in fact, the Sea of Galilee is called the Sea of Tiberias, I think in John. And that was a major Roman-built city after a Caesar there. But it's not mentioned, oddly enough, other than the Sea of Tiberias. That's where it's from. And another city, though, that's right next to Nazareth is called Sepphoris. And Sepphoris and Tiberias are the only really, really Hellenistic, very, very Roman cities in the region. Now, they were kind of built there to really Hellenize the place, to make it more Roman, with the influence there.
I got you.
And so Nazareth exists in the shadow of a Hellenized Jewish city of Sepphoris. Reputed impiety is probably not the problem either. Sepphoris remained true to Judaism despite its unwillingness to revolt. The surrounding region was acknowledged to be Jewish, and Nazareth's inheritance seemed to have been entirely Orthodox or entirely Jewish. Moreover, Galilean villages and towns required no economic or cultural dependence on the two Galilean cities, though, like most villages and towns, they would have been influenced by larger cities in the Roman Empire. Large cities usually tended to be economically parasitic on the countryside, and most Galileans hated the two cities. So there's some stuff there. Sepphoris' prominence and later Christian tradition about it make its absence in the Gospels all the more striking. Jesus probably had little contact with it, and perhaps Nathanael's hostility is conditioned by the phrase "a prophet from his own country" mentality. John 4:44. But more likely from civic rivalry in the region, which was common more generally in antiquity.
That's pretty neat. I didn't know none of that. That's because I was kind of curious on why they just don't like each other. So I mean that's neat. Makes sense, that the Jews wouldn't care for them Gentiles down there.
Yeah.
What? Especially if they had a lot of Roman backing or belief in them, because they really didn't like the Romans.
Right. And then right, and that's the whole thing about the Galileans, because even in the Galileans, because the region had that Roman influence. Now they didn't choose that; it's kind of put on them, but still what it is. And then you think about, and they even spoke differently, because you see, like in the trial of Jesus there, when Peter was out in the courtyard, and he was questioned, "Are you also a Galilean?" And he said, "Well, that's a very odd thing to say when it must be that the voice, was there." And even then in Acts 2, when they were questioning the apostles, when they were speaking in tongues, and they said, "Are you not Galileans?" So it has something to do with, I think, that they're not seen as being maybe like true Jewish people because of the influence that may have had different speaking. We don't really know for sure, but there's definitely some differences there that was not appreciated.
And we kind of get a little bit of that being a true Jew, or here in the next few verses, do we not?
Yes, yeah.
Think about verse 47. Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him and said to him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile." I think some translation that it is translated a true Israelite. Is that correct?
Yeah.
A true Israelite.
Yeah, that's the word indeed. Indeed is the word aletheus.
Okay.
And that's the word true or genuine.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
Okay. That word, I didn't. That's the only time this word is used in any of the Gospels. It's only used in John. And we know that John likes to use the phrase "the Jews" when he's talking about the Jews that did not like them, did not like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He calls them the Jews. But the difference is, and well, you think about it, an Israelite is a Jew. That's what they are. So what's the difference here is when John uses the phrase "the Jews," he always has a negative meaning or a negative vibe with it towards that group. Here we use Israelite, it's using a positive way. A positive way. Jesus is saying that Nathaniel is a special type of Israelite, a certain kind. There's no guile or deceit in him. And that kind of goes back into what you was, all this you've been talking about in Galilee with all them those cities and whatnot set up with the Roman influences. There's so much. Well, for someone to come out there and for someone here is a true Israelite, when some of these other Jews out of Jerusalem may look down on these people, that that's a compliment. He was complimenting him.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that's a really neat thing. I do not think that he is calling him a true Israelite in the way that Paul would describe himself in Rome. When Paul went through his things, I'm this, I was this, I was this.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. It's different. He is. I think Jesus is trying to lift up Nathaniel.
Yes.
Hey, you are an Israelite. You are a Jew. No guile, no deceit are found in you. So anyway, I think that's what Jesus was getting across here.
Yeah, and I've got two more things I want to add in there. You see kind of a contrast between Nathaniel and Jacob. Jacob, by deceit, lied to his own father and cheated his brother out of the blessing of the birthright.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis 25:26. And then the second thing is one of the few qualities of the leaders of Israel were that they were to be men of truth. Exodus 18 verse 21.
That's neat. Now, that commentary I read, he had something on Jacob and Esau, and I couldn't connect it. I don't know. It was a little over my head.
Yeah.
And I quit scratching my head and I moved forward.
All I got was he's contrasting. That Jacob had all kind of stuff. Nathaniel's not. He's kind of a true Israel, type thing.
But, some of that stuff I was like, I don't know, okay. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, it don't really matter. Sometimes I don't want. I try to keep myself from going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you get there and you find the answer, like, okay, but did it change your perspective or your thought on the context or whatever?
Right. Right.
I just left it alone.
Yeah.
I kept plugging along.
Yeah. There you
go. But the neat thing that we see here is we see that Jesus is using his divine powers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's letting his and we're going to see.
That's just 48.
I jumped ahead. 48. Nathanael said unto him, Whence knowest thou? Whence knowest thou me? Jesus answered said unto him, Before that Philip called thee, when thou wast under the fig tree, I saw thee. He's showing him. And this is something that these two people only knew about.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus and Nathaniel. So here Jesus is revealing his divine powers. He's showing them that he has supernatural knowledge. And the neat thing, what are miracles? I would call this a miracle in a sense. What is it affirming to Nathaniel? It's affirming that he is the Christ.
Yeah.
Right?
That he is omniscient.
And I think a lot of people I think sometimes we miss I don't know. So I don't think people will consider this a miracle, but what else would you call it? It's a miracle that this man knew what I was doing, or he How did he know it? But I don't guess you could call it a miracle because, I mean, anyway, I'm not going to go down there either. But I think it's sometimes we look over these little things. How did he know? Well, he was God, and that's why that's one reason he brought this up to Nathaniel, was to affirm to Nathaniel, hey, I am who they say I am. That's me.
Right.
And he's given him this knowledge. Hey, I know this about you. And he's like, oh, wow, okay. I was the only person here. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah.
And also shows us that God's always watching us no matter where we're at.
That's true. That's true. I've got two more things here under this about why he could be under the fig tree from Guy N. Woods and a few other guys. You got like 5 things here. It all says the same kind of thing. 2 common reasons given for being under the fig tree. Number 1 was rest. Number 2 was meditation. And the idea of the meditation there is the picture of a certain seriousness in the study of scriptures, and reflected in the expectation of God's action in history.
Okay. I've been telling myself I want to pick up Guy N. Woods' commentary again and read along with it again to get some more stuff from him. Because I enjoy this one I'm on, but I mean, Guy N. Woods, he's always has some neat, interesting, just stuff.
Yeah.
To say. I'm gonna read 49, 50, and 51.
Yeah. And then we'll call it a day.
Nathanael answered and said unto him, Rabbi, thou art the Son of God, thou art the King of Israel. Jesus answered and said unto him, Because I said unto thee, I saw thee under the fig tree, believest thou? Thou shalt see greater things than these. And he said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. So, back in verse 49, now we see that Nathanael, he's not a skeptic no more. He is a believer. He is a believer in Christ. And that's the whole, in a nutshell, that's what John, the apostle, is trying to get across to this whole gospel. John wants to get across to his readers that Jesus is the Messiah. And I'm going to tell you these things so that you do believe. And that's, we see a perfect example of that right here with Nathanael. He is the Son of God, the King of Israel. That's what Nathanael calls Jesus. He's given him, he's calling him 2 messianic titles right here.
Yep.
He's a true believer now. And again, them 2 phrases, in its context, they show a good and close relationship between Jesus and his Father. He is the Son of God. Now, I do want to look at the Son of God, because I think it's very important that we see that definite article there, the used, because me and you, we are children of God. We become sons of God, right? Through obedience.
Right.
Through baptism. Well, there's a difference between me and you being the Son of God versus the Son of God, wouldn't you say?
Sure, definitely.
And so I don't know if that's what I don't know if I'm using that correctly here when he called him the Son of God. If that's the idea there, is why that definite article was used. But I picked up on it, and I was just kind of curious if I was on the right track there, because me and you we all today have an option to become children of God, but he was the Son of God. There's a big difference there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious if I was on the right track there, because the guy in the commentary didn't say much on it, and I was too lazy to get up and go get another one.
No, that's okay.
So far away.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, I think you're on the right track.
Do you have anything on 50?
Yep. Says the greater things than these may refer to the upcoming miracle in Cana, Nathanael's hometown, John 2:12.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
Lots of things. Now, my question I have, is it just going to be Nathaniel that sees greater things, as talked about in verse 50? But when you look at verse 51, will all of them see greater things?
Yeah, because we have to figure out, is the you singular or plural?
Yeah. I thought that was a neat thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
I did. When I was reading, I was like, oh, man, I never picked up on, never seen that.
Yeah.
And I'm always telling everybody, you're trying to learn just a little bit of the basic Greek stuff, because we miss that in English. There's no way you can see that in English, but in the Greek you can see it, because in verse 50 it's second person singular, and in verse 51 it's second person plural.
Correct.
So it's almost as if he's talking to Nathaniel, but then he kind of shifts and he turns and he's talking to all of them in verse 51.
Right.
And I think that's a very, very neat thing for us to pick up on.
Yeah, definitely. And did you catch the idea that this hereafter you shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man, as a reference to Jacob's ladder?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Well, that's what I got. So Jacob's ladder in Genesis 28, verse 12, and Jesus is affirming that he is the true ladder to the Father, John 14, verse 6.
That's neat there. I like that.
Mm.
I like that. And again, every time I see that word verily, verily, I think of you explaining that to me. From every time I see it now and I'm reading through something,
yeah,
yep, there it is. That's Stephen taught me that. I'll never forget that, because
it's just true teaching now. True teaching.
Yeah. I like that.
Unalterable teaching. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
it. Well, man, we've made it through one chapter, man.
Man, congratulations. I'm gonna send you a medal in the mail, man.
Shoot. Now, hey, man, you're right there with me.
Oh, I know.
You're right there with me.
Hey, but it's good stuff. Good stuff.
It is. Man, again, I've enjoyed this, man. I have enjoyed this so much.
All right. Well, to everyone that views us or will view us, we just want you to know, thank you for being with us. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us through the email or through Facebook. It'll be at the bottom of your screen here, and or come by and see us. I'm in Houston. Alex is in the great state of Mississippi, if I get my words out, and the SIP. And he's over there in Quitman doing good work over there. And I'm over here in Stafford. That's outside of Houston, about metro area Houston. But anyway, come on by and see us sometime. And, we look forward to seeing you again next video as we go into John 2. And I'll let Alex close us out with his trademark clause he always does.
Y'all keep praying, man. Keep praying. Don't forget to pray.
There you go.
Don't forget to pray.
And we'll see you later.
Pray for me tonight, man, because